Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. You know, a question that I actually still get asked ever so often here on YouTube and other places and even in person is, why do we live the way we do? Why is it that you insist upon living in secluded parts of the country? Why is it that you insist upon living a fairly simple life without a lot of modern conveniences? And push yourself to actually have to do all this heavy labor and hard work on a daily basis when of course it would be so much easier to just buy a place that's already prefabbed and done and just live your life like the rest of everyone else. It's a good question, and I don't know that I can give one simple answer to a question like that. I guess there are days that it sounds like it would be a nice thing, at least for the moment, to be plugged back into the matrix, to be oblivious to what's going on, and to just have a fairly easy life. And I'm not saying that folks that live in the city, have it easy, but the idea of just having a normal job and then coming home and not really having to do a whole lot, well, it is kind of sounding easy compared to this life. For those of you, and many of you live similar to how we do, one of the selling points isn't that it's easy. It's beneficial. There's certainly aspects of this lifestyle that I believe enrich a person physically and mentally and even spiritually. In fact, one of my main reasons for wanting to live this way is I believe that the spiritual connectiveness of living out in the Creator's creation and living as close to it as possible in the way that I believe He intended us for it to live, I believe that does afford us a connection there that you're not going to get living in a noisy and smelly and an absolutely vulgar city life. I'm not saying all this to put people down that still live in the city. I know that many of you that are living in the cities and the suburbs long to live like this and to be out in an environment like this on a daily basis. But living like this isn't always the easiest. I said the other day in a video how hard I'd been working around here. We've been doing a lot of work and improving things, building things, digging ditches. That's what I've been doing all morning, is digging holes. And for those of you that are familiar with the Ozarks, there's nothing easy about digging a hole here in the Ozarks. And it got me to thinking that, why do I live this lifestyle? Why am I doing this? I mean, people my age, most of them anyways, things are kind of settling down in their life, starting to become grandparents. I in that retirement age where you can just kind of sit back and watch TV and go golfing or whatever it is retired people do nowadays. So why continue to wake up with sore muscles and achy back because you've, cut down trees and hauled lumber and dug ditches and holes and put up fences the whole day before, when, in a world that we live in, it's not necessary. We live this way for a bunch of reasons, but some of the main reasons are, obviously, I believe that we're safer this way. I believe that we are able to live a life that's a little bit more secure. I understand that there's some arguments that you could make that living secluded is actually more dangerous, and I've examined both sides of the argument, and I've come to the conclusion that I believe that we are safer this way. We're able to be more self-sufficient. I mean, there's no argument there. There's no argument that on even a smaller piece of land out like this, that you can be much more self-sufficient than in any city or suburban environment. And I understand that there are people that's become famous because they've grown so much food on a small city plot or whatever, and that's great. If you can do that, if you can, raise a lot of food and grow a lot of food on a small city lot, then that's a good thing. But the bottom line is that living out like this, it's so much more secure, and you can be much more independent. I think for me though, and my wife, we both agree on this one. Um, Living out like this, it's just where we want to be to raise our children. We live in a crazy, crazy world. And we talk about that all the time on this channel. I point it out. Some people like it that I do, and other people say that I'm always talking about all the negative stuff going on in the world today. Well, guess what? There's just a lot of negative stuff going on in the world. And if you want to be prepared physically, if you want to be prepared mentally, if you want to be prepared spiritually, then you at least have to be aware of what's going on. You have to know that some of these things are happening so that you can at least have a better plan and a better idea of how to get through it all, to survive it and to thrive, and to outlast this disastrous kind of world that we live in right now. It's kind of almost like, the planet's it's got an expiration date on it. At least that's what the Bible says. And some of us are starting to wonder how close we're getting to that expiration date. And as things continue to develop around the world, and especially in this nation, it's starting to look like that we're getting close to that expiration date, folks. And because of that, I think that's why we should be a little bit more prepared. I have seen my own, and I've seen other children flourish so much from living in a city or urban environment, suburban environment, to moving them out to the country like this. I've seen children that have developmental disabilities, that in a city environment, they were told that they needed a lot of medication, they needed a lot of therapy to get through the problems that they had, and moved out to the country, and almost all those problems kind of went away. Living out like this, and not just living out in the woods, because a lot of people live out in the woods, but I kind of think that there's a difference between living way out in the country or way out in the woods and actually living off the land at least as much as you can, and to doing things much more simpler and much more independent. I believe that makes us stronger. I've seen it several times recently. People ask online, what is it about America? Like, you watch all these other countries that are starting to rise up against tyranny in their land, and America, that's not really happening. What's it going to take? What's it going to take for Americans? How many more executive orders and how many more bills are going to be passed, and how many more edicts from the dictators that rule our nation anymore? How many more is it going to take before Americans rise up like we did in the past? I don't know. I think we've become too domesticated. That's my easiest answer, is that we've become too domesticated. We've become too comfortable. We enjoy the comforts that we have, and we know that if we stand up against a system, we know that we'll lose those comforts. We know that most Americans, no matter how oblivious they are, they know that fighting against the system on any kind of level is going to also include them risking losing the conveniences and the comforts that they have. I mean, virtually every movie of any kind of dystopian future portrays that. If the government falls, for whatever reason, it just gets thrown into some crazy, chaotic world. And we must just do what we're told, because if we fight against it, we could lose it all. And it's just too hard. And I think Americans have just gotten too soft. I think we've gotten too domesticated. And my hope, my prayer is that there's still enough people that are willing to break off those shackles of modern, conveniences, and stand up, even if it means losing the comforts that they have. And so I think that living out like this, it reminds us more that while this life is a little harder, it's physically harder. There's things that you have to do when in a modern world you wouldn't necessarily have to do them. When it's storming and hailing and tornado warnings going off. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of running inside where it's nice and comfortable and riding it out. Sometimes you have to be out and taking care of animals and making sure that everything's going okay and not getting blown away. Back when it was frigidly cold and it was down below zero, and you just want to stay inside where it's warm, you have to get up early and you have to break ice and you have to feed animals and tend to things that are going on. And there's been times I've had to stay up all night in the cold or in the rain or whatever it is to take care of an animal that's giving birth. This kind of stuff isn't easy, as enjoyable and fulfilling as growing a garden is. It's physically hard to do it. There's certainly an enjoyable side of it, and then there's obviously the benefit of the harvest. But getting to that point isn't easy. You have to put a lot of work into it. And so I think in doing this life, not only does it enrich us, not only does it, offer safety and security and make us more independent, I think it reminds us also that we're probably meant to live like this a little bit more so than what we are aware of. And that we're a better person because of it. We're a better person generally when we have to work harder for what we have. When people get things given to them too easily, there's no appreciation. I mean, that's a big problem with young people nowadays, is that they don't appreciate anything. They don't appreciate how hard it is to make $1 anymore. They're all walking around with $1,000 cell phones and wearing $200 shoes, and they have no appreciation of what it takes to do that. They have no understanding really of how much work it entails to come up with $1,000 anymore. And I understand some people can come by $1,000 more than others, but that's a big problem nowadays. And it's been an ongoing problem for years. I mean, it was going on when I was young, in my generation. And I remember my first car, which I bought because I was working on hauling hay, and my dad said that he would not help me purchase things like tires. He said, if you want to put new tires on your car, that's on you. You're going to pay for that. And so I did, and it gave me much more appreciation of how fast tires wear out when you are constantly burning the rubber off of them. And I realized how expensive they were. This is something that's not really going on in this world today. And I would have no doubt that there are people in this world that would say how we raise our children is just flat out abusive, because we make our children do certain chores every day. We make our children take out the compost buckets, and dump them and clean them. And we make them go out and fill the animal waters. Even when it's hot out, even when it's raining, we make them go out and we make them gather eggs and take hay out to the sheep. Oh, it's horrible that we're that way, aren't we? I mean, we're just awful parents by making our children do certain chores, and to understand that when they don't do those chores, when they don't take care of these animals, then they could die. That these lives on this farm are dependent upon them bringing them food and water. I guess that just makes us awful, doesn't it? We live in a pretty crazy world. I think this video is probably going in an area that I didn't originally intend to, but I just wanted to address really why we live the way we do. Maybe I am addressing that. We live this way because it brings so much more enrichment in our lives. It brings so much more enjoyment in our lives. We're, waking up and not hearing honking horns and jackhammers and people screaming or gunshots or smelling smoke and smog and hearing all that kind of stuff. and yet waking up and actually hearing birds chirping and smelling the fresh, sweet, clean air, and hearing animals, the rooster crowing and the turkey gobbling and the sheep, baying. It's so much different, and I believe that it does something different to us. For those of you that are wanting to live this way, it's not easy. It's not an easy task. There are still, I don't know the numbers, mostly just from talking to people, and I have a couple of, realtor friends, and they've told me this, that there's still a lot of people that move to the Ozarks with the intent of kind of homesteading or living off grid, because a lot of people do that here because it's a very favorable state for that. It's actually kind of encouraged. And they don't last very long. A lot of these properties that I have friends, like I said, that are realtors, they said a lot of the properties that they sell that are kind of marketed as homesteading off-grid properties, people buy them or they lease them or whatever, and then a year or two later they're gone because they can't handle it. I think too many times I call it, kind of Pinterest homesteaders. They see all these pictures shared around of the beauty of it and how wonderful it is, and they don't ever hear about how tough it is. And it is. There's nothing easy about it. And there's days that my wife and I joke all the time. We'll joke with the kids. Well, we're going to head off for the day. We're going to go get us a motel somewhere, and we'll see you in a couple of days. And certainly there's days that we would love to do that. But you're kind of tied down here. You got animals depending on you. You've got things to build and to fix and to get ourselves more prepared. And that's really the goal that we have here, is to not just build a nice, beautiful homestead, although, I mean, we want that, but we're also building something that is as sustainable as we can afford and that we can physically do, because the things that are changing in this world are changing so rapidly. It's even been said, they're flat out openly talking about that, of how rapid. There's an intent to that they are pushing this fast, and that's what they intend to do, to really just overwhelm people, to where the population realizes, well, we can't fight against this. There's too many attacks on too many fronts, where there's too many things changing. Everything is changing. Everything is changing. And we can't stop it all, because we can't hardly focus on which thing is changing at which moment. And so it's this tactic to overwhelm us and to get us to just submit and subdue us. And I think living out like this, that we're able to kind of circumvent that change. And yeah, the world is changing around us. There may come a day that they march us off this land, or we have to make a choice to take our last stand here or not. But until that day happens, if it ever does, we know that we're able to live outside of the system here, at least in a large way. And we're able to choose what comes onto this property, the information and the influence that comes onto this property. And because of that, I think that we are, and those of you that are like us, are living about the most rebellious lifestyle that you could nowadays. And at some point, we may have to take it to the next level of rebelliousness. But for right now, if you want to be a rebel, if you want to do everything you can to live outside the system, I am a firm believer that this kind of lifestyle is the best. It's not easy by any means, and you do have to give up a lot of conveniences at times, especially if you're starting off on a very tight, small budget, to build up to that point that you're living how you really want to. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices in the beginning. But in the end, for those of you that are looking for this lifestyle, I think the benefits far, far, far outweigh any of the negatives that go along with it. So I encourage you to keep it up, to keep pushing forward. Stick with your dream to live like this. For those of you that are living like this, I understand that there are days that it's hard. But don't give up, because you are one of the few that are truly rebelling against all of this rapid change around us. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.